Welcome everybody to another Voice of Nick show. We're doing more of our Posthomerica illustration stuff. So the next figure, we currently have Aphrodite, we have Paris sort of refined. Now these three are rough, very rough, well not very rough, they are rough drawings. So we want to get in the proper line art. And yeah, they look pretty good though. I mean, as far as the figures, these two figures look pretty good. This guy we're gonna redo. But let's get in for now with Aphrodite. And so we'll group together these three layers. We'll put a new layer on top. Turn her down. And we're gonna use this as a tracing thing, just as always. We're gonna trace our own drawing. I do want to change her eyes though. I want to make her eyes a little bit smaller. They're a little too anime-esque right now. Why is this not making any marks? Is the pencil not turned on? Sometimes you have to plug it in for a second. Yeah, see, there's a lot of battery. There you go. Oh, see, this thing we do not want on here. Okay, good, it disappeared. That thing is what caused our Photoshop to have to be reinstalled like 3 times. Do not like that feature. All right. Let's give her more of like a like that. And her eyes are going to be looking more towards the subject at hand. It's kind of difficult to do it like this because we're not really using the underdrawing. So we have to either give her an under thing on both eyes or no under thing on either eye. I think we'll do no under thing. Okay. See, it won't let me make a small enough line sometimes. It tries to interpret the type of line you're attempting to make. And sometimes that goes horribly wrong. See, like it won't let me make a thin line. Good. Very nice. Now we'll finally move on from that. Now this is all gonna kind of like really, I'm not sure how we're gonna capture this because of there's like a frizziness going on in the hair, which I think is definitely matches what I would sort of imagine for this goddess. Maybe let's give her like a tiara or something. Take a look at what a tiara actually looks like. These are very ornate tiaras. Simple tiara. Even the simple ones are ornate. Greek tiara. Okay. Yeah, that one's pretty cool. Okay, how do I get this picture though? Ah! Well, here's a giant photograph of a lady wearing a tiara in my reference file. Oh yeah, that's pretty cool. I don't think we'll really be able to do it on here. Well, let's give it a shot. It might be too thin to do. It's like a tiara made out of leaves. Okay, number one, we're gonna have to turn off the bones, or at least turn them down. Yeah, you know what, we shouldn't do it like that. Maybe we'll just make leaves looking like they're coming out of the top. You know what, no, I'm gonna use my shape really simple shape, and we'll put a couple of designs on it. It's too small to be like very ornate. I don't know, we'll put some kind of jewels in it or something. This doesn't really look like any of the tiaras that I saw, but it's my own design then. God, God, this pencil is like really killing me here. And I know the sentiment could be like turn the size down, but you don't really want to do that because we have to keep the bigger picture in mind. If the pencil size doesn't fit what we're trying to do, that means it's going to be too small to see anyway, because the size of the picture is that, you know, you're not seeing what's happening on that tiara. We're getting too small with the details. Okay, now let's turn off the guides. Well, hold on, we'll put the neck in there as well. Let's give her a, it looks like there's some kind of indication of some kind of pearl thing on her neck. All right. I'll turn this off, turn this off. And now we want to come up with some kind of like logic to the way the hair works. I don't really know what I'm going to do with this. So we're not doing like a superhero style, you know, lines of shininess through the hair, but we are trying to add some kind of texture, indications of texture, just by leaving some of it not black. Okay. Good. And then there's a little bit above. I like the thing we added. I think it looks good. What do I know about tiaras, but in my opinion, there's like a frizziness on the top part of her head that is interesting to me in this reference picture. And it really does match Eris's character, because she's the goddess of strife. So this kind of like, unwieldy hair, you know, not that it's that unwieldy really, but in real life terms, but in terms of like Greek artwork, you wouldn't necessarily have them portray the hair that way unless they're trying to make a point of it. Okay. Very nice. Now I keep going. We'll put the bones back in. Get a couple of lines, folds and stuff. What do we have here? The reference picture is deviating a lot from what we have. Let's see if we like what the reference does. I kind of like the one I have already. Let's just match what we already did. They're kind of like ugly looking lines that we want to make them a little more uniform. We got to turn off the reference for this because I can't see what the hell I'm doing. Okay. That's probably good. Really loose clothes are always hard for me because you have to indicate the anatomy without really having the clothes actually, touching the body for most of it. All right, so we'll do this. Good. Now I have her apple down at her side because I was originally going to have her clutching it here, but it's blocked by Paris, or by, what's his name? By Philoctetes. So we can't really do that. But her arm is too long right now. The problem is, I think I'm going to keep it this length because if we change it, we're going to have to change the whole composition. So we're actually going to do the apple on a different layer because it has to have a different... Does that make any sense? No, we should do it on the same layer. When I roughed it in, it was on a different layer. But now that we know what it's supposed to look like, there's no point. And for anybody who doesn't know the Greek mythology behind this, the kind of narrative concept that I'm doing here, this character Eris, within the Homeric text, she's also synonymous with the goddess Strife, and Strife, who basically her whole thing is that she just like comes in and causes a big problem for everybody and then leaves. And her most famous incident of doing that was she essentially created this like beauty contest between Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite. she threw this apple of discord in there, and she told Zeus, give it to whoever is the prettiest and the most beautiful of the goddesses. And Zeus didn't want to do it, so he gave the responsibility to Paris, who had just been discovered, I guess, by like Hermes or one of those other guys. And Paris, when presented with like potential gifts that each of the goddesses would give him, picked Aphrodite. And Aphrodite's gift that she was going to give him, you see how convoluted these Greek stories are. The gift Aphrodite was going to give him was the most beautiful mortal woman who existed. And of course that turned out to be Helen. And we all know how that went. So essentially, Eris, the goddess of strife, with this apple of discord, kicked off the entire Trojan War. Set this like plan, this like 20-year plan in motion, which kicked off the whole thing. So it's kind of like part of my story here, to go back to what we're doing here. This is, in this space where we turned him off, is Philoctetes, who is the archer character that ends up shooting Paris and killing him. And at the time, strife is like on the battlefield. It's like the story makes a point to indicate that. And so I'm kind of like embellishing a little bit and saying like, well, if strife is on the battlefield, then maybe she is sort of like the instigator causing Philoctetes to shoot Paris. And so the only two highlighted things here is the apple and the arrow. Almost as if like the arrow is the thing controlled by the apple of discord. And that's the story of what we're doing here. Yeah, as I've been reading more about Greek pottery and learning more about Greek pottery, it's a really big aspect of it where there's a storyline associated in every picture. It's not just like, random characters or like just a scene that is faithfully portrayed. There's always like some kind of editorial concept from the artist where they're like coming up with their own things, or like, not necessarily, they're like adapting the story, where it'll be like, oh, this, Heracles is fighting a stag. In my picture, he breathes fire, even though like it's not necessarily said that he's supposed to breathe fire. Like that, they'll just come up with their own ideas. And I think that's cool, because they're truly being a storyteller at that point. They're not just like drawing a picture of some story that exists. It's really hard to tell which stuff we are now creating and which stuff is like in our back picture, basically, or which stuff is in the front picture or what. So we're gonna have to get rid of this thing soon. Yeah, that looks good though. We should probably darken some of these lines now that those ones are in. Okay. At this point, I didn't really know what to do with her back leg. I kind of just roughly indicated it. Very roughly indicated it now that I'm looking at it. And Strife here is the only character that is at like a 3/4 angle, which I think is kind of interesting that that's like a significant thing. So it, even though she's in the background of the picture or like behind one of the characters, there is still some kind of like visual attention drawn to her. Yeah, I really like this composition for this picture. I think that we're getting some good stuff. Oh, I see what's happening in the reference here. Okay. Looks pretty good. Okay, so that's everything that we would need the underdrawing for. Now we don't need that anymore. This is looking way better with a refined piece of line art as well. All right, so what's one of Strife? Eris. Oh, Eris is Strife. Okay. Let's see. Characteristics. Oh, ENYO, I meant to say, yeah. Yeah. Nothing really sticks out to me like visually as like little things we can put on her costume. All right. Now the question is, does this look better than if it was just white? I don't know. I think it's better the other way. How many undos do we have here? I made too many brush strokes. That's all we got. So we'll erase the rest. We're actually pretty lucky that it let us do that many. I think that with the refined line art, this looks really good. So I'm happy with this. We're going to put in the back coloring. This part's actually also her hand, yeah. Okay. Now we're gonna have to do a lot with carving out her hair from the background because it's all black. There we go. So this should work. It might need to be thicker around the edge or thinner, but all in all, it should be okay. Let's fill in her head and then turn on the black background for a second. Just see what it looks like. Okay. Yep. Ooh, yeah, that looks really good. Love that. I wish more of them kind of had that type of glow around it. It's almost like in some Christian art where like the halos will be around their heads and stuff. Or like in Orthodox art where there's like that kind of glow around their head. Yeah, I think that works really well in this picture. Every time we make one of these new chapters, I end up saying like, wow, I think this one's my favorite one, but I really do think this one's my favorite so far. I think there's a lot of really fun decisions. I love the storyline. I think it's a very strong composition. I like it a lot. I think I have more fun with the red figure pottery than with the black figure pottery. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because they tend to be more traditionally representational. There's a lot of fun things you can do with like patterns and stuff with the black figure, but you know, it's definitely a particular style, whereas these can be almost like approaching more contemporary kind of like comic book artwork and stuff like that. So we don't really need to do the, inside part with the same size brush. We could just do all the outside sections and then fill it in with a big brush. Great. So now, let's get her Apple of Discord in there. We will put that on its own layer, and we'll just save this real quick too. Great. Turn Philoctetes back on. Looking real good. So we're gonna have to come up with for him a good way to separate this area from the ENYO character. I put it's almost like a drop shadow behind it, but I don't think that's a great solution, so we'll see what we can do. It'll be either a lot of black or a lot of white or, red around it to let it pop out from the background, because we don't want his bow to get lost in the picture. I think it's important that ENYO is literally behind him, the background plane behind him in the frame. It's not as powerful when she's over here or something, or all the way in front of him. It's better when it looks like they're working as one unit. It kind of combines them, she's literally almost controlling him to shoot Paris. Yeah, I love the line art on her though. These three are looking great. Now we do Philoctetes and we redesign standing guy to be pointing instead. Good stuff, ladies and gents. That's going to do it for this one. Thank you for joining the show. The channel is called The Voice of Nick. If you want to see more, don't forget to hit the follow button.